Welcome back to Valheim. It's the middle of winter out in the world where I live, and I figured it would be fun to build a cozy winter tavern in the mountain biome, using a lot of the awesome techniques that I've used in my previous builds on this channel, like the steep roof and everything. So hopefully this design turns out well. Without further ado, I hope you all can follow along and get some inspiration from this build. So let's get started. I started the build by scoping out a beautiful spot in the mountain biome, doing some terraforming and laying out a simple stone floor plan with some stone slabs and stone stairs. So you can pause the video now if you'd like to copy the layout, and then we'll get started on a raised stone foundation, which will become the basement or cellar of the build, and that will include all the crafting and some storage. So for the foundation here, I'm going to do a simple rectangle foundation, but then I'm going to implement some curved edges, and you'll see here in a moment what I'm talking about, but I think it's going to look really nice. So I'm first just going to lay out some of these little 1 meter by 1 meter stone blocks on my foundation part, which will become the cellar, and then have the main tavern part on top of it. And then this little portion will mostly just be a little bit of a slab for a deck and some overspill from crafting and things. Maybe we could put some barrels or wood piles over here. And then we can start working on some doorways or openings. So I'm gonna have a little opening over here so that you could maybe go out on a path, and there's a nice frost cave up here. So if I ever did some landscaping, I'd do like a little path up to the frost cave and to some other builds maybe. And then this is gonna be a door. This will probably be the main entrance into the cellar. And this back portion is gonna be closed off because it's going to be a window. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing I did on that side, but then mirror it on this side to be a double opening here out to this little slab portion, which will be underneath the deck of the tavern. So that'll be the main floor layout for our foundation. Now I'll show you guys how to curve the edges. So we're just gonna do one rotate and then kind of push it in, and then do the same thing on this side. Just do one rotate, push it in, and then we just want to rotate it one more, just like that. And you'll see it has like 2 little snapping points here. I'm just going to pick one snapping point and kind of nudge it closer to the front. And I'll kind of just do that for each of them. It doesn't really matter that you can snap it to be either. So again, just one rotate, snap it in, and then snap it in. And then I'll just kind of nudge that snapping point right there. So that's perfect. That's like what I want to do, so I'm just going to do that on all the corners, and then I'm going to build this up by 3 blocks high, or 3 meters. And I forgot to mention, I'm building it up 3 meters aside from these corner pieces, these very corner pieces where we're kind of picking between 2 little snap points there. It's very hard to see because it's super subtle. But for those, I'm only building them up 2 high, and I'll explain my reasoning for that later in this video. So with that, I'm just going to frame out my little window here on the back side, and then we'll go ahead and go to our stone arches, and I'm just going to put an arch over the doorways as well as the window there, and then we can start working on the floor that'll be above this for the base floor of our tavern build. Alright, so now that we have that complete, I'm going to go ahead and grab my iron beams here, and we're going to start framing in just some supports for the stone floor that'll go above this. So I'm just putting them kind of on both sides here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put them all the way across, just like this. And that will be plenty to support our floor on top of it, as well as the roof. I shouldn't need too much support because we're not building crazy tall for this build. One thing I could do is just go ahead and continue up. Actually, for these ones, I might go ahead and bring them all the way up like that, along the sides, just so that we can have some support for the chimney, which will come out over here. So now with that in place, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my stone floors, the stone slabs here, and we're gonna overlap this stone foundation by 1 meter all the way around. And you can see the reason we are leaving the very tops here without having a little block placed in them is so that we don't have a confused snapping point for the stone slab, so that it can just snap on nice and even, and we're not like bouncing around on snapping points which will happen if you have a piece here, and then you might end up throwing off your foundation floor, which could then end up making the whole build just slightly off, and that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I like things to be snapped nicely, and yeah, so that's why we're doing this, and then we'll go ahead and place the last blocks once we're done with the stone floor here. So I forgot to mention, leave these little edge pieces exposed. We're just gonna build it up to there, so like 2 on that, and then overlapping just like that. There we go. So there's what the floor should look like when you're finished, and then we can go ahead and round these edges. So I'm just gonna rotate it by 1, do the same thing over here, rotate it by 1, and then 1 more. And at this point, we can go ahead and throw that little 1 meter piece back in there. And then this should basically just want to snap right on. Again, it'll probably have 2 snapping points, but for those ones, doesn't really matter too much. So again, I'll just rotate it 1, rotate it 1, go ahead and place that little piece back there, and then place the final piece in like that. And we'll just do the same thing around the back side, and that will be our nicely rounded rectangular foundation. I'm now just going to go ahead and place some corewood pillars just to kind of enclose the iron beams, make things look really nice down here, mostly along the edges of the entryway. So there we go, something like that. And then for the front here, I'm going to go ahead with 2 of these wooden doors and place them just like that. And we could do the same thing for the side here as well. And then for this section, I might just leave it open for now. Again, it's kind of just a cellar, a little storage room. It's not going to be heated necessarily. Just sort of a little root cellar area. So I don't think I'm going to worry about too much. I might decorate it out a little more, but yeah, this will be a good size to house the forge and workbench and everything. So I'm now going to start laying out the first level of the main house. And for that, we're just going to go ahead and put 2 walls, something like that. This front section is going to be the darkwood doors. I think this will look really nice. And then we're going to start framing out a log cabin here. So I'm going to do my little log cabin corners everywhere, and then we'll go ahead with some logs all the way across it. So here's what that will look like. Now I'm just going to work on a little jut out that's going to be a 4 meter by 4 meter square coming off the back side. And these logs will not overlap or have the little corners. This is going to be for a spiral staircase that will go up to all the levels of the build. So that's how that is going to look. And we'll just go ahead and take some other beams and sort of just tie it into the foundation to look really nice. Maybe something like that. That'll do for now. Now I'm going to go ahead and frame in my second floor here. Now to sort of blend it into the first floor, I'm going to use these darkwood arch pieces on the edge of the logs here. And then use a little darkwood pole right below those. So it'll look a little funky right now, but I think it'll look really nice when it's all finished. Then I'm going to come out with 2 little 1 meters there. And then do the same thing over here. 2 little poles with some of the arches right on top of them. And I think this will just tie it into the floor of the second level really, really nice. And I'm gonna do this, yeah, I'm just gonna do the same thing here on the back side as well. Something like that, and then tie it into some little arches right there. Then we can go ahead and place our floor pieces down and cover the entire top with a floor, aside from this back section over here. This portion we're going to leave open for our staircase. And then we can go ahead and place our spiral staircase down. And we'll just line it up, something like that, with the left spiral staircase. And then go ahead and place a little floor for the landing right there. And I think that'll work perfectly. So now we have pretty much the first level framed out. And now we can start messing with the chimney, which is going to be a little bit more complex. And it will definitely require quite a bit of support here. So there we have it, a nice looking chimney that houses the hearth as well as the oven with a little space for a cabinet above it. So as you can see, it holds up just fine. It looks a little floaty right now, and that's what we're gonna fix here. So I'm gonna go in with my black marble cornice corner here, and we're gonna go ahead and put 2 of those on both of the bottom corners of the chimney here. This will start to make it look more blended into the main house portion. Then we're gonna go ahead and grab our stone columns. I'm gonna place 2 on both sides of this window here. And then I'm gonna grab 2 more of these corners and tie it the rest of the way down into the house. There we go. That looks quite nice. And then 2 more stone columns right on there. And then I'm gonna go in the very center and place some arches. Something like that. So 4 of them. And then just place a little stone block right up in there. And then we can go ahead and frame out the window at another point. But that looks pretty nice. It kind of ties it into the foundation a lot nicer. We could go ahead and take some corewood logs and hide these 2 iron beams, or you could take stone pillars and do the same thing. But that looks pretty nice, and then it still allows us to actually keep the window over here because we've got a nice little mountain view over there. So I think that looks great. So now we can go ahead and start working on the next big portion. And I'm just going to go ahead and continue these with some corewood poles. And we can go ahead and continue our spiral staircase up a bit higher. And this will go to the final floor. So that's perfect. Now we can start walling off everything and then start working on the pointy roof. There we go. This is all looking absolutely fantastic. Really, really like it. This will continue out to like a little side room here, which will then go out onto a nice sort of wraparound deck out front. And I'll figure that out in a minute here. But what I'm going to start doing is laying out the section for the pointy roof, which is going to be a little bit difficult. Pointy roofs always are. But the nice part about this pointy roof design is that it doesn't require any free placing. Everything snaps in perfectly, which is part of the reasons I love this design so much, because if you are implementing it in survival, it's going to be easy to repair, unlike the little pointed roofs that are made by free placing tons of wood. And it's obviously not going to take weather damage no matter what biome you build it in. Everything just snaps in perfectly. It's super easy to follow along with, and we're going to make some updates to this pointy roof from anything else you've ever seen on the channel, so definitely stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. So there we go. There's one side of the pointy roof, and if this was a little hard to follow along with, I will link a tutorial down below on building pointy roofs. Because the first part of this design will be the same exact thing as that tutorial, and then once we're entirely done with the whole roof, I'm going to show you an extra step to make it look that much better in this video, and I'll explain that step in a little bit greater detail. So now I'm going to go ahead and create the point off the front of this, and we're just going to take some of the 45 degrees, perfect, and then coming off of it with 2 of these pieces. Just like so, and that will basically continue across to be the roof line, and don't worry, it'll all be supported once we're done. We can also continue these iron beams up a little bit higher, essentially just kind of coming across here, because this will add some support, and then we could continue that all the way up to the top, or put 2 more on the sides here. We'll figure it out when we get to that point, but right now it's holding up enough to finish what we need to be finished on the roof. And then I usually just like to tie these in with a bunch more pieces just to kind of fill out the roof a little more. So I'll go in with 2 26-degree pieces, just like that, and then 2 more on the sides here, and then 2 45s up from the bottom of these 26-degree pieces. So sometimes this can be a little tricky, in which case alternative snapping can be really nice, just like that. Perfect. So now we're going to go ahead and replicate this exact thing on this side. So there we go. We now have 2 points sticking out on both sides. We just have to start building the roof up. So I'm going to go ahead on both sides and sort of start creating this flange that comes out. And we can go all the way across that little gap with it. Perfect. And then same thing on the second area. We'll just start continuing these out a bit as we bring the roof over. And then we can go ahead and take our 45-degree roof pieces and start snapping them on the outer sections there. And this will create support all the way from the bottom up to the top. So like as we start continuing these up, you can see it'll just be kind of a yellow, and then we'll be able to continue this center roof ridge all the way the rest of the way across. And for the chimney section here, you can just kind of phase them right in and snap them. They won't hinder any of the smoke escaping there, which is super nice. And you can see here now, we can go ahead and put that roof beam all the way across, and it's not going to break because we have the support of the entire roof coming up. So that's usually how I'd leave the side of my pointy roofs, but I'm going to show you an extra step now that's going to make it look so much better. And what we're going to do here is go ahead and take our corewood logs and place essentially a corewood log going all the way across on both sections here. So like that, and then on the edge here, and then one in the center, and same thing at the very top here. And this is going to be amazing, and here's why. Because now it's still perfectly snapped. We have these corewood logs, and they're gonna look super nice on the inside of the build. But what we're gonna do now is take our 45-degree roof pieces, turn on alternative placement, by hitting E. It's snapping to top 1 now, and we're just gonna go ahead and snap in these roof pieces along the entire top of these corewood logs. And you can mostly just start from like, yeah, the right edge in my case and work my way down, or if you had snapping to top 2 or something, you could start from left edge and work your way down. But I'm just snapping these to the tops of these corewood pieces, and what that's gonna do, you'll see here in a second when I step back outside, is that's gonna create shingles halfway in between the existing shingles. And you don't see them from the inside. It does nothing different from the inside here. But as we go on the outside, check that out. Adds so much more smoothness to the slope there and sort of makes it like there's shingles overlapping and everything. And I think that looks really, really cool, especially if you did this build as a super large build. But yeah, it just kind of breaks up that harsh gap there, which I haven't done before. And I figured that one out on the fly, actually, with this build, and it just looks so amazing. I was doing a bit of testing to try to figure out how I could make this pointy roof look a little nicer, especially when there's snow on it, because there's a much harsher contrast where these overlap. So I think that turned out absolutely amazing. So we'll just go ahead and do the same thing for this side right here. And I'm now gonna go ahead and leave it. This section's not quite finished off because I'm not entirely sure yet how I wanna sort of tie into the covered porch here, but I'll go ahead and get that figured out. But yeah, check that out. That pointy roof looks absolutely amazing. And then we can of course add some little curls on the top here. There we go, perfect. I think now what I'm gonna do is start framing out the floor for the final level here, which will kind of be a loft, but this could be like where the innkeeper or the tavern owner is able to spend the night. So this will be sort of a private room that's separate from the rest of the build. And then I'm debating how I want to do a window up here, but I'm thinking I'll put 2 like that. We'll go ahead and put something like that. And then 2 on the sides. And that should frame out a really nice window. We can go ahead and hide that iron beam and do something like that. And then, let's see here, something like that, and put some shutters on all the sides, and we'll trim it out really nicely later, put a windowsill and everything. But yeah, if we open those up, that'll sort of be like a nice looking window. We could do the same thing on the back side. Oh yeah, that looks really nice. And then I also want to start walling or putting like a roof and finishing off this little this little stairway, which I think I'm gonna come out by 2, something like that, or actually just by 1. It doesn't really need 2 there, and I can just do a little something like that. There, that looks quite nice for the back side of it. Then I can just go ahead and like free place a little windowsill on the outside. I did like a little covering over the window. I think that looks perfect for a little spiral staircase roof. And then I might put 2 little shutters over here and figure out what to do with that window. But this is looking great. I'm now gonna work on building the little jet out as well as deck. And first I'm just gonna come out with some of these pieces. Let's see, there we go. Now they'll stay in the middle. And then for the deck roof, there'll be like a little covered portion over here, and then it will be open the rest of the way around. And this little covered portion, I'm just gonna go ahead and bring it out by 3 of these. And I'm starting these 26-degree roof pieces, the second row up from the bottom of 45s. And yeah, this'll take a little bit to try to stay, and that's why we need to start working on our pillars as well. To give it some structural stability. And this will become my pillars. So I'm gonna bring these 2 high. And then I can destroy these guys and replace them with these. And there we go. Perfect. And then this should work out perfectly for the perimeter of the deck. So it's gonna come out something like this, and it's gonna overlap by 1 on each side, come all the way across, wrap around over here, so there'd be like a back entrance, and then it's gonna do the same thing up front. It's gonna come all the way in, and then these pieces actually, I'm going to continue these just like that on some little fences that I built there. And then that will support it just like so. That'll come out right there. And now we can go ahead and complete the entire deck. So this entire thing is getting filled in all the way up to the house. So there we go. Now the roof can have its support over here. We can go ahead and continue these pieces all the way down and continue the roof all the way down. And this will also get trimmed out with my classic roof trim. Basically just going out 1 meter on all sides. And there we go, just like that. Then we can go ahead and continue the wall up. I'm gonna do a little window over here. So we'll just do a half wall and then a full wall, just like that. We can do a little windowsill and mess with that. Also gonna start building a railing around the side of the deck. And for the railing, I just wanna use these little 1 meter poles here. And then I'm gonna use core wood to go in between them, just like that. And then go ahead and take the iron grate, the little 1 meter, or cage wall it's called, and fill the whole thing in. So there we go. I've done it all the way around, backside here as well, and I've gone ahead and added some little supports here. And now that we have this piece, which is touching the stone here, I'm gonna go ahead and destroy these and place a little column like that, and then replace the pole, just like that. It'll add a little more interest to the bottoms of these pillars here. Perfect. And then I've gone ahead and added a little railing around here for the bottom railings. I'm just kind of continuing them up through the stone there, and then I'm not doing the core wood, just to add some interest and texture. And then we can go ahead and make a staircase coming down here. I think I'm gonna use the 45-degree ladder, just to keep things nice and tight and not feel too big, but you could certainly use the 26-degree stairs. You could come down with stone stairs, whatever your preference is. But I think that looks awesome. And then you can still access this portion to get into the crafting room, which I've started decorating. Now I think I'm gonna go ahead and close off this rest of this covered section, because this is like a perfect spot for a little dining table, the little round table to go in here. All right, I think this turned out beautifully. We've got a little area here for some outdoor seating. I have a little doorway into an enclosed dining room here, and then a little back door out onto the back deck where you could shoot out of and everything in case of raids and all of that. So I think it looks really awesome. Now all that's left is to do a few finishing touches to spice up the outside look, as well as do a bunch of interior decoration. And then we can run the final cinematic tour and showcase. thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this build. I had a lot of fun building it, and I hope you got some inspiration as well. Thanks again to all of my channel members and supporters. Be sure to subscribe and join the Discord server through the link in the description, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.